Hi there. Way back in 2014, I did preliminary work on exploring the possibility of using video games as learning tools in my classes. I was looking for ways to mitigate handicaps in improving their skills. There is a persistent inequality of access among students, and there is a need to try and level it somehow. The key here for me is to make use of whatever tools are already available before forcing people to acquire new ones. One of the ways that I devised for my classes was introducing what's now called game photography. In the early to mid 2010s, I had already found evidence of its usefulness. Unfortunately, game photography has its own issues, such as access to technology, as well as its own learning curve. I moved on from this exploration, but thought that maybe I could go back to it if things change in the future. Fast forward 10 years, I'm now looking if things have. There are more games and virtual environments available today. Advancements in computer hardware and software have afforded virtual environments more features, notably higher quality graphics and greater freedom of movement and viewing from within. Some of my old findings may no longer be relevant, or maybe new issues have arisen to sit alongside the old ones that linger. This study aims to weigh this new set of benefits and challenges, assessing the viability of game based learning in the field of photography. I aim to address the following questions. What are the pros and cons of incorporating game photography in class, and how well does game based learning translate to improvement in real world photography skills? I have educated guesses for these questions, and this study will be an opportunity to vet them all. Computer graphics in games have come a long way these past decades. For example, we can see how the Tomb Raider franchise evolved from its beginnings with the original game in 1996 to Shadow of the Tomb Raider in 2018. This increase in detail and realism affected not just Lara Croft, but also the virtual environment she resides in. This improvement in realism prompted an appreciation for games beyond their gameplay. Virtual worlds became destinations for tourism, with access to virtual locations from those based on reality to pure fantasy. It's not rewarding as touring the real world, but virtual tourism offers options not possible elsewhere. For example, Assassin's Creed games became known for their attention to detail when it came to recreating historic land and cityscapes, so much so that a government supported tourism company in Ireland used Assassin's Creed Valhalla as a virtual tourism site in 2021 during the height of the COVID 19 pandemic. Second Life was ahead of its time with its free roaming camera back in 2003. The act of virtual tourists taking photos and screenshots in Second Life followed, but it wasn't until years after when the visuals improved to a point where people took notice and turned taking screenshots into a serious art form. The earliest documented case of game photography as an art form was of Italian artists that took portraits of avatars from Second Life and brought them to different physical galleries in different countries. Since then, game photography has continued to gain popularity as technology continued to advance. A case study on using Second Life as a learning tool for undergraduates in digital photography was documented at the University of Leicester. Students were found to have enjoyed the opportunity to explore photography techniques within the game. My own work corroborated those observations. Despite its fall in popularity, I'm amazed that Second Life is still around today, after more than 20 years. It's still a viable platform for game photography, but there are so many other options now with better visuals with their own photo mode, which students may already be familiar with coming into my course. Though said, considering the learning setting at UP Open University, game photography may still pose the same issues. Yes, the technology is better, and students might have more savvy than ever, but games continue to become more demanding of computing power. There is still no guarantee that this will become more feasible. Most of the literature I've seen so far are not peer reviewed. I have yet to collect a rich set of literature on game photography, let alone in the context of open and distance e learning. Exploratory studies had been conducted by those such as myself from within UP Open University. However, Outcomes of the study were neither published nor investigated further. I have little doubt that game photography has progressed and gained more traction over the last 10 years. Therefore, a more in depth empirical study can be warranted to fill some of the gaps in relevant bodies of knowledge. The activity is currently being conducted on a voluntary basis for students in my photography class. Previous observations indicate that not all would have an inclination towards gaming. Therefore, at least for now, I thought it would be more appropriate to have this as an optional activity for extra credit. The procedure is very similar to how a photographer would go about doing a real photo shoot, with pre production, production, and post production stages. It also serves as a practice or rehearsal for students as they prepare for the course's final project, which has the same process, albeit using a real camera in the real world. There still isn't much by way of empirical data, but anecdotally, students who signed up are more knowledgeable and express more enthusiasm. It's generating additional student engagement, something online learners struggle with. This is certainly another aspect worth investigating as I move forward. And on a personal note, I'm finding the whole thing to be enjoyable, a rare occasion for me when work is involved. I find myself learning new things that I'd be interested to try in the real world. So, yeah, things do look promising. And on that note of personal joy, I would like to end this presentation. Thank you.